They say blood is thicker than water, but they never tell you that blood is also a lot easier to hide in the dark. I sat across from my sister, Sarah, in a cold, sterile lawyer's office in downtown Chicago. I thought we were there to finalize our father's estate, a simple $1.2 million inheritance meant to be split 50-50. I even reached out to hold her hand, thinking she was as heartbroken as I was. She didn't take it. Instead, she slid a single manila folder across the mahogany table. She didn't look sad. She looked satisfied. Inside that folder wasn't a will. It was a decade's worth of a quiet setup. Photos I didn't know were taken. Documents I'd signed thinking they were medical proxies. And a police report that was about to change my life forever. By the time the lawyer spoke, I realized I wasn't a grieving son. I was a victim of a psychological execution that had been planned for 12 years. If you think you know your family, you're wrong. This is the story of how the person I trusted most turned my entire life into a crime scene. To understand the betrayal, you have to understand the dynamic. I'm David. I was the successful one. I moved to New York, worked 80-hour weeks in finance, and sent money home every single month. Sarah stayed behind. She was the quiet one. She lived in the guest house, took care of our aging father, and lived off the allowance I provided. I felt guilty for leaving her with the burden of his declining health, so I gave her everything. Access to my bank accounts for emergencies, power of attorney for Dad, and my complete, blind trust. In our family, Sarah was the saint. I was the checkbook, but looking back, there were signs. Small, quiet flickers of the fire that was about to consume me. Every time I visited home, things were slightly off. Dad seemed more confused than his medical reports suggested. He'd look at me with fear, not love. I'd ask Sarah if he was okay, and she'd whisper that he was just getting older and that he forgot who really provided for him. She told me not to worry, that she was handling it. By 2022, when my father passed away, the setup was in its final phase. For the last 3 years of his life, Sarah had been doing more than just handling things. She was a master of psychological warfare. She was telling Dad that I was trying to put him in a state-run nursing home. She told him the money I sent was actually stolen from his own retirement accounts. She even went as far as to forge emails from me. Emails where I supposedly called him a burden and wished for his estate to clear so I could pay off my own debts. But the financial betrayal was the most genius part. Because I had given her access to my accounts to pay for Dad's care, she began slowly siphoning funds, not into her own account, but into a joint account she'd tricked our father into opening. She made it look like I was the one laundering money out of his estate. She was creating a paper trail where I was the villain, and she was the protector. And I was so busy working in New York, I never checked the fine print. I just kept clicking sign on the digital documents she sent over, thinking I was helping her manage the stress of his care. Back in that lawyer's office, the man who had known our family for decades looked at me with genuine disgust. He told me that based on the evidence Sarah had provided, including my own signed admissions of financial negligence and the recordings of my father's final wishes, I was being removed as a beneficiary. I froze. I asked him what recordings he was talking about. Sarah finally spoke. Her voice was cold. She said that Dad knew what I was, and that she had made sure of it. She played an audio clip. It was my father, his voice weak and trembling, saying he didn't want me to have a cent. He said I had been stealing from him for years, and that Sarah was the only one who stayed. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. It wasn't just about the $600,000 I was losing. It was the realization that my father died hating me because of a lie my sister had been whispering in his ear for a decade. But it got worse. The quiet setup wasn't just for the inheritance. Sarah had taken out a massive business loan in my name, using the family house as collateral. She had defaulted on it 2 months before Dad died. Because I had signed those medical proxies, without reading them, I had actually signed as the personal guarantor for the loan. She didn't just take the inheritance. She left me with $400,000 in debt and a shattered reputation. I lost the house. I lost the money. And for a while, I lost my mind. I tried to fight it in court, but the setup was too perfect. Every document had my signature. Every emergency she created was backed by a paper trail I had ignored. But here is the unexpected outcome Sarah didn't plan for. In her greed to take everything, she forgot one thing: the IRS. By framing me for money laundering and theft, she had inadvertently created a massive tax discrepancy in the joint accounts she was actually using. When the state went to seize my assets, they found the trail she'd used to move the money into her own private offshore fund. She wanted to see me in a cell. Instead, we ended up in the same courtroom. I'm currently rebuilding. I live in a small apartment now, a far cry from my New York penthouse. But Sarah? She's facing 5 years for tax evasion and wire fraud. The moral of this story is that trust is a gift, but in the wrong hands, it's a weapon. I learned the hard way that the people who sit at your dinner table can be the same ones digging your grave. Watch the quiet ones, because by the time they speak, it's already too late. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you shared a home with, your story deserves to be heard. Drop it in the comments below. It might be the warning someone else needs to hear today. Don't forget to subscribe to Unspoken Stories for more deep dives into the dark side of human nature. Stay vigilant. You never know who's listening.